Apple was 90 days from shutting down, and the company that wrote the rescue check was its biggest enemy. 1997, years of losing money, sales falling off a cliff, a product lineup so messy even fans were confused. The bank account was so empty that inside the company, people openly said, 90 days of life left. Steve Jobs, pushed out years earlier from the company he founded himself, had just come back to try to save the ship. And then came the most surreal scene of all at a conference in Boston in August of that year. On a giant screen behind the stage appears the face of Bill Gates, head of Microsoft, Apple's biggest rival. Gates announces Microsoft is putting $150 million into Apple. The crowd, packed with the faithful, booed. To them, it was the enemy walking in the front door. But Jobs knew exactly what he was doing up there. Microsoft also promised to keep making Office for the Mac for 5 years. Without Office, nobody worked on a Mac. And there was the clever angle. Microsoft was being sued for monopoly, and keeping the rival alive proved there was competition. Both sides came out winning, but the most surreal detail of this deal only showed up years later, because that check didn't buy regular shares. It bought 150,000 preferred shares with no voting rights. No vote, so Microsoft couldn't run Apple. It was a rescue, not a takeover. And Jobs got the breathing room he needed. He cut products, simplified everything, stopped burning cash. A year later came the iMac, and Apple started breathing again. Now hold on to this. In 2003, Microsoft sold that entire stake in Apple for $550 million. Almost 4 times what it had invested in 6 years. Back then, it looked brilliant. It was supposed to be the rival's happy ending. Except Apple then took off. iPod, iPhone, iPad, and it became the first American company worth more than $3 trillion. If Microsoft had held that same stake until today, it would be worth more than $150 billion. In other words, the rival saved Apple from the grave and still lost money on the rescue itself, leaving billions on the table. Bill Gates himself admitted later that selling those shares was, in his own words, a dumb decision. If you were Microsoft in 2003, would you sell the stake for $500 million or hold? Comment what you would have done. Get your moment. Subscribe for a new one every single day.